It all kicks off with a massive boom. Liang City is under a heavy attack, and an alert urges the residents to evacuate calmly. Meteors start falling from the sky, while that same evacuation warning keeps echoing non-stop through the area. Among those meteors, one really stood out. It was glowing blue and radiating an immense aura of energy. Right after that, a boy gets completely engulfed by this blue aura from the meteor. It ends up completely transforming his body. The scene cuts to Liang's #1 high school, where a notice reminds everyone that getting into the honors class is their golden ticket to becoming an elite warrior. The teacher explains that the placement exam simulates the college entrance test, breaking down that there are 750 points in total between culture and martial arts. With a serious tone, the teacher points out that only the top 10 students in the written exam will get priority to choose their martial arts testing hall. Our boy walks by, looking at his own hand, thinking this is his shot to become a warrior. He remembers how he passed out in his first year and had to take time off. With cold sweat on his face and a determined look, he figures this is probably his last real shot in life and decides to grab the opportunity once and for all. But his deep reflection is cut short when another student intentionally bumps his shoulder right in the middle of the hallway. A trio of arrogant students shows up laughing. The leader mocks him, asking if the guy, now revealed as Chengdu, really had the guts to show up for the test. With a twisted grin, the bully sneers that disappearing for 2 years and coming straight back to the honors class takes some nerve, sarcastically calling the boy a genius. The MC grabs the bully's arm, thanks him for the concern, and tells his rival to focus on passing his own test. Without giving their little act any more attention, the MC turns his back and calmly walks away, leaving the guys glaring at him from a distance. One of the lackeys is totally confused, wondering how a kid who used to be their punching bag in freshman year could be acting so cocky now. Annoyed, the leader calls his buddy brainless, warning that beating him up right there would just get them punished. He says the smart move is to wait for the martial arts evaluation. With a psycho look on his face, the bully declares that during the practical exam, they are going to put the kid out of commission, since roughing someone up during the test doesn't break any rules. Back in the classroom, Chengdu stares at the computer screen taking the written exam. The question asks to describe the beginning of humanity's martial calendar. The boy recalls the history, thinking back to the year 2042, when Earth used nukes against an overwhelming alien invasion. In his memory, 2 years after the war, the creatures mutated and revived, sparking a global disaster that resulted in over 20 billion casualties. His answer details how radiation caused humans to break their limiters and evolve, eventually reaching a level 2 life force sometime later. An image pops into his head showing a jacked warrior breaking chains with pure physical strength, illustrating the awakening of humanity's true power. This evolution allowed humans to finally go toe-to-toe with the threats, using glowing energy weapons and devastating skills in battle. That moment marked the end of the old era and the dawn of a bright new age, forever recorded in history as day 1 of the martial arts calendar. Back in the present, the MC finishes up the final questions on the computer and clicks the submit button without a second thought. He stretches his tired body in the chair and calmly looks at the screen, noticing with a little smirk that he got a perfect score on the theoretical test. The boy thinks about the truth of his past, revealing he didn't spend 2 years passed out, but rather constantly entering a mysterious training space. With the test done, he walks back and opens the door to his house, calling out to his dad, who cheerfully replies that dinner is already on the table. As he takes off his sneakers, his little sister pops up, complaining about her older brother's clumsy habits and telling him to be careful not to lose his school pass. The whole family gathers around the dinner table for a quiet meal, with the dad serving food to the kids while they chat about their long day. Soon, the MC notices something odd in his bowl and asks in shock where his dad got those super expensive blood and energy pills. With a big, warm smile, the old man explains that he specifically bought the supplements to help boost his son's score for the honors class exam. Feeling bad about their sacrifice, the boy tries to turn down the gift, telling his dad he's more than capable of passing the test without taking anything extra. The dad puts a hand on the boy's shoulder and tells him to stop worrying, saying the family will always support him and his sister in becoming dedicated warriors. Realizing his old man's determination and love, our MC just nods with his head down, accepting the valuable help even though it weighs heavy on his conscience. Later, in his dark room, he figures that little bottle must have drained the family's life savings, and concludes that becoming a warrior is the only way to protect them. He sits cross-legged on his bed and starts focusing a blue energy into his hands, vowing that his exam results depend on tonight's training. In the blink of an eye, his mind travels to that mysterious space, where the warrior appears holding his sword in the middle of frozen mountains. He thinks about how ever since he passed out the first time, he enters this special place in his sleep every single night. Just then, a dark roar echoes across the icy landscape. The boy reviews the main rule, remembering that his mission there is to wipe out the hordes of monsters trying to destroy the glowing crystal. He knows if the crystal breaks, he'll spend the entire next day passed out, but if he manages to defend it, he wakes up feeling completely refreshed and full of energy. As he charges at a furry beast, he recalls how he used to get beat up a lot in the beginning, but every victory slightly boosts his spiritual power. A virtual screen pops up showing the timer for the enemies, and the warrior sighs, wishing that more than just the first successful defense gave out real rewards. With no time to rest, the MC dashes like lightning, slicing through the smaller monsters with an intense flurry of precise sword strikes. Panting heavily after the close-quarters combat, the boy takes a deep breath to recover and mentally commands his status panel to open. The blue screen projects a hologram of his body showing his stats, confirming that his spiritual combat power has already hit the 1,000-point mark. The moment of peace doesn't last long before the system flashes an urgent danger warning, telling him to brace himself because the fifth horde is already incoming. A massive shadow covers the sky as a huge dragon tears through the air, firing a deadly blast of fire straight at our speedy hero. With incredible reflexes, the boy slides across the icy snow, managing to dodge the flames that melt the ground exactly where he was standing a second ago. Seeing that the fire didn't do the trick, the winged beast swoops down with a monstrous swipe, trying to crush its human target with its giant, razor-sharp claws. Giving him zero room to breathe, the dragon follows up with a violent spin in midair, landing a devastating strike by whipping its armored tail against the ground. The impact is so intense it blasts a wide crater in the frozen area, kicking up a ton of dust and destruction with sheer brute force. However, the boy jumps over the beast's back just in time, confidently stating that after getting taken out so many times here, he has the monster's attack pattern memorized. To exploit the opening from above, he activates a fluid light technique and fires a slashing energy rift straight into the enemy's red scales. The energy blade lands a direct hit on the giant creature's back, causing an explosion of sparks as it tears through the furious beast's natural armor. But the risky attack only ends up ticking the monster off even more. It glows bright red, and the MC realizes in shock that it just triggered its rage mode. The dragon lets out a roar that shakes the mountains while flames erupt all over its body, proving that the fight just got incredibly serious. The creature lunges with its jaws wide open, looking to swallow its opponent whole, but the boy holds his ground, relieved he didn't take any major damage. He focuses his spiritual energy into the sword once again, takes a deep breath, and tells himself to stay cool, swearing he's going to come out on top this time. He immediately takes the initiative in this lethal showdown, shooting forward like a blue comet, closing the distance in a flash so the dragon doesn't get the upper hand. The furious monster spits another blast of flames to finish him off, but in a blind move, the boy slices the fire right down the middle without even breaking his stride. The creature pulls its head back, blood spilling from its wounded mouth, completely caught off guard by the human's speed and power as he pierced through the frontal assault. While the beast is stunned from the counterattack, the hero drives his sword deep into the monster's side, burying the energy blade to the hilt with zero mercy. With an aggressive glare and a serious expression, he keeps up the psychological pressure, proving that the enemy's massive size doesn't scare him one bit. The dragon snaps its head around and breathes fire upward to force him off. The boy does a backflip to escape, mocking that having a smaller body comes in really handy. At the peak of his acrobatics, he spins upside down, pointing his weapon downwards in a vertical strike that splits the air, aiming right at the wounded creature. The colossal impact forces the scaled beast to roar in pain towards the open sky, while the heat venting from its body goes completely out of control. He grips the hilt with both hands, his whole body radiating an intense spiritual aura, and seizes the moment to yell out, activating his agility technique. A dense beam of light erupts from his slash, cutting through the air and blasting the giant lizard right in the face, obliterating the beast from top to bottom in an extreme display of glowing power. Unable to withstand the crushing blow, the colossal beast collapses lifeless into the snow and bursts into a thick mist, kicking up a massive cloud of smoke over the battlefield. Just to make sure nothing is left standing, The swordsman finishes the job by slicing the remains of the fallen creature with one last blinding slash across the ground. The body dissolves into particles over the snow, and the system prompt on the screen announces he beat Horde 5, rewarding him with a unique immortal visualization method. After checking out his new prize, he mentions that this visualization technique is super rare and exactly what he needs to seriously boost his spiritual level. But his peace is shattered the very second the blue screen beeps loudly, warning the warrior to gear up because another wave of enemies is already on the way. Terrifying shadows of 30 top-tier monsters surround the crystal, showing that the challenge in this spiritual dimension just jumped to a whole new level. Defeated in training, the boy wakes up in bed, sighing about how the enemies are now in a higher tier. He realizes he won't be clearing this stage anytime soon. He decides not to stress over the beatdown and quickly projects a blue holographic book into his hand, eager to see how this visualization technique actually works. The swordsman's mind is pulled into a dark dimension with a floor made of water. His eyes glow an intense blue as he tries to make sense of the place. Suddenly, a gigantic, monstrous figure with red eyes appears in the empty space, casting an overwhelming shadow right over the MC's body. With cold sweat running down his face while facing the giant, he realizes the technique works by putting him through brutal trials just from making eye contact with the beast. Inside his bedroom, the student's body starts cracking, surrounded by a bright blue aura, proving that the new cultivation method is already kicking in. Morning comes, and his bedroom door is thrown wide open by his little sister, who walks in holding a spatula to announce that breakfast is ready. She walks in right as her brother is putting on his shirt, revealing a super jacked body. The girl gets totally confused and asks if he somehow got more handsome. The boy gives a slight, confident smile with his messy hair, showing that his physical changes and posture really have become a lot more intimidating. He jokes, asking if he wasn't handsome before, and playfully messes up his sister's hair. She gets embarrassed and tells him to stop ruining her hairstyle right then and there. Still a bit red in the face, the girl crosses her arms, trying to figure out how her older brother changed so drastically overnight. Standing alone in front of the mirror, he stares at his reflection, wondering if this transformation is the result of that immortal visualization method he activated yesterday. Now dressed in his school uniform, the boy says goodbye to his family at the door, and his dad tells him to be extra careful on his way to the big exam. The scene shifts to the massive sports gymnasium of the city's #1 high school, where students are already gathering for the martial arts evaluation. Standing in the middle of the gym, the boy stretches his arms, thinking the cultivation method worked like a charm since he can clearly feel massive improvements all over his body. A sarcastic voice interrupts him out of nowhere, drawing attention to the arrival of the so-called genius student who took a full 2-year vacation from school. The leader of the bullies walks up laughing, mocking how the worst student in the class actually has the nerve to take the exam just to place dead last again. A classmate nearby mutters that it's still better than failing the written test, and the bully immediately gets ticked off, asking what he just said. With a sharp glare and not a single ounce of fear, Chen-Du warns the rival that if his hearing is that bad, he probably shouldn't be taking the practical exam either. The jerk loses his temper and tells him not to push his luck, but the kid with glasses tries to calm things down, quickly introducing himself as Jiang Bei. The bully leader hides his anger, stating that the evaluation is the main priority right now, since starting a fight with the teachers watching wouldn't do anyone any favors. He turns around and walks away with his lackeys trailing behind, but points a finger, threatening that Chen-Du will get exactly what's coming to him once the combat starts. Jiang Bei panics, telling his new buddy he is totally screwed, but the MC shoots back, cool as a cucumber, saying he'll handle whatever comes his way. The new kid explains that the situation is bad, revealing that the bully, Feng Rui, is only so arrogant because his uncle just became the school principal. Worried, he confesses that the principal leaked the exam questions to his nephew. Chen-Du figures he's going to have to dodge whatever sabotage they throw at him. A notice pops up on the gym's big screen, confirming that the exam will consist of strength tests and duels, instructing the students to group up and check in. His friend pushes him on the back, telling him to stop zoning out and get in line, complaining that the MC is way too laid back about everything. Standing in front of the massive digital punching bag, a student freaks out over the rule that immediately eliminates the last place finisher, thinking this year system is way too harsh. An instructor warns them that they still have combat duels ahead, advising all participants to save their strength so they don't pass out from exhaustion later. Getting his fists ready, Chen-du decides not to mess around. He figures the best strategy here is to secure the win by striking with maximum speed. Across the room, his rival flexes a red energy aura and smirks, bragging out loud that the test is a breeze and he's got more than enough power to wreck the target. The system gives the official green light for the first evaluation group to start, and the silent rivalry between the two students hits peak tension. Without wasting a single second, a massive, lightning-fast fist tears through the air with ridiculous pressure, shooting straight at the giant tech target. The punch caves the bag in, creating an explosive shockwave, and even the virtual monster projected on the screen glitches from the sheer violence of the hit. The yes-men cheer, praising their spiky-haired boss, hyping up his brutal strength and guessing his total power output must be pushing 1,400. The lackey tries to keep the trash talk going, claiming his boss took first place and someone is getting kicked out, but he quickly swallows his words when he gets the shock of his life. A second deafening impact blasts the target with twice the brutality, kicking up a heavy cloud of smoke that completely takes over the testing area. Jaw dropped, an evaluator shouts that the student named Chen-du just hit a 1,500 punch score, a number equivalent to an insane level 5 strength rating. Totally hyped by the crazy score, Jiang Bei throws his arms up and cheers, leaving the gang of bullies standing there in absolute disbelief at what they just saw. The teacher with a scar on his face notices that this number is flat-out impossible for normal students, suspecting the kid is using some hidden martial arts techniques. Intrigued by the level of performance he just witnessed, the teacher immediately asks his assistant to pull the prodigy's school record so he can review it properly. Reading the paper in shock, the master discovers that a regular class student took 2 years off and still managed to post monster numbers in martial arts. While the new kid pulls his buddy away to celebrate, the master decides that this afternoon, he's going to keep a very close eye on what Chen-du's true skills really are. The competition setting suddenly shifts, focusing on a massive dirt ring set up outside, surrounded by students waiting for the next phases. Holding the evaluation clipboard, the teacher in charge calls the students whose names are selected to step into the ring immediately for the combat duels. In a less than friendly coincidence, the first names drawn to open the main arena are Chen-du and the stressed-out rich kid Feng Rui. The crowd starts guessing who will win. Some claim that brute strength from the punching test means nothing in a real duel, where combat technique is what really counts. The two take their stances in the ring, and the spoiled brat points his training sword, telling his rival not to expect the same lucky break he got in the last round. The MC flashes an ironic smile right back, replying that he sincerely hopes his opponent stays this cocky by the end of the fight. The teacher reiterates the rule against excessive violence and signals the start. In that exact fraction of a second, Chen-du dashes forward, leaving rapid afterimages behind. He draws his sword from the scabbard, keeping a totally offensive stance, proving he didn't step in there to play nice or just play defense. An aggressive vertical strike slashes down, and the rich kid blocks it with everything he's got, creating an explosion of sparks as their weapons clash. The boy lands lightly in the corner of the ring, his eyes glowing with an intense blue light, ready to keep the relentless pressure on his opponent. Desperate, the bully unleashes a massive wave of red energy, screaming at the top of his lungs that he's the one who's going to make it into the honors class. With spectacular reflexes, the hero shifts his stance and blocks the destructive energy with his glowing blade, without even breaking a sweat in the process. In a flawless, smooth motion, he redirects the enemy's pressure, completely deflecting the slashing arc outside the combat area. Blinded by rage after seeing his magic fail, Feng Rui tries to crush his rival with an overhead slash, screaming for the boy to just lay down and lose. The brutal impact shatters the arena floor, sending stone shards and dust flying everywhere in a failed attempt to end the match. But the hero simply leaps cleanly into the air to dodge the shockwave, noting to himself that fighting humans is way different from fighting in the illusionary dimension. Still floating midair, the MC focuses his aura into the blade, charging up a devastating downward counterattack before the playboy can even blink. A colossal lightning strike crashes down, blasting the center of the courtyard and completely swallowing the enemy's defense in an overwhelming burst of light. Trapped right in the middle of the brutal vortex of power, the bully feels the weight of the technique crushing his bones, unable to find a single opening to escape. The rich kid gets dragged backward by the ridiculous force of the shock, and our MC instantly notices that his rival's stance has completely fallen apart. To seal the technical knockout, the student activates his fluid breeze technique and dives in, landing a glowing, direct hit right on his enemy's unprotected chest. The impact to his ribs knocks the wind right out of the target, making the bully spit up a spray of blood instantly, proving his health bar just hit 0 right there. Looking like he barely even tried, Chengdu lands on the ground without panting and sheathes his sword as the dust settles across the arena. The defeated rich kid loses all strength in his legs and lets out a terrifying scream of pure agony, feeling his body completely lock up in the most humiliating way possible. With a heavy thud, the exhausted jerk collapses stiffly in the middle of the broken ring, showing the whole school that his arrogance couldn't back him up in a real fight. At the edge of the arena, his buddy with the glasses goes wide-eyed, yelling that his friend actually turned the tables, while some random student guesses the kid used some kind of cheat. A medic team rushes in and tosses the loser onto a stretcher. The head evaluator grabs the mic, telling the medical department to take good care of the unconscious student. The MC was already about to make a run for it, but the teacher raises his hand, calling his name and asking him to wait in the ring for a moment. The experienced teacher stares at the boy with crossed arms, looking highly mysterious, but clearly mind-blown by the masterclass performance he just witnessed. Walking alone through the dark hallway, the young man scratches the back of his neck and apologizes to Teacher Ling for getting carried away and using too much force on the final hit. The master reaches out to comfort the student, saying that getting roughed up is just part of the game. He tells him to head home, rest up, and stretch before the next round. Annoyed that Feng Rui got absolutely clapped without even scratching his rival, a random guy grabs his phone and calls the school principal directly, reporting the insane power gap. Strolling calmly down the hallway, Chengdu thinks about how it's still pretty early and his dad and sister won't be home for quite a while. Just then, the boy walks into a high-tech room, silently celebrating that the school offers free virtual combat pods for students to train in. Inside, the holographic system explains that all you have to do is lie down in the machine to be automatically matched against warriors with a similar skill level. Staring into space, our MC reflects that his current rank is only bronze because he spent all his time focused on fighting space monsters instead. As he plugs the equipment in, he figures that humiliating the playboy is definitely going to bring him headaches as they try to block him from getting into the elite class. With the large red machine open in front of him, the platform notifies him that all fight records go straight to a special youth ranking dedicated to prodigies. Already seated and ready for action, the kid reads that this leaderboard is globally recognized and highly contested, even by those who aren't in the special class. As the glass closes completely, the young man decides he's going to build his name the hard way on this ranking to secure his spot in the advanced class using pure talent. Bathed in the startup lights, he admits it's been a while since he used this kind of tech and decides to queue up for a quick match just to warm up his muscles. Soon enough, a cute piggy avatar materializes in the middle of a white digital arena, waiting for the match to begin. Resting a long sword on his shoulder, the MC's avatar finds the silence weird and asks out loud where the heck his opponent went. Out of nowhere, a girl drops from the sky armed with twin daggers, launching a lethal strike while taunting that her rival's reaction time is way too slow. Without panicking, our hero raises his blade just in time to block the violent ambush, creating an impact that scatters sparks all across the screen. Jumping back to create distance, the purple-haired girl compliments her opponent's reflexes and warns him that the real world isn't like school where everyone bows before a fight. Standing ready with a firm grip, the young man states he's learned his lesson and guarantees he won't leave any openings to get caught by another cheap trick. Right after that, the two launch into a frantic exchange of blows, crossing the entire arena at speeds that a normal eye can barely keep up with. The hero charges in, shouting the name of a dragon technique. The girl dodges it easily, mocking him for using a thrusting move like a regular slash. Landing a clean kick right on her rival's chin, the girl lectures him that the 4 forms of fluid light aren't rigid, telling him to focus on the core essence of the movement. Knocked far back, the piggy avatar's big eyes go wide, as he internally agrees that it makes absolutely no sense to limit his sword techniques to just one single format. Sliding on his feet to break his momentum, our MC gets ready again, starting to wonder how this stranger knows so many specific details about his fighting style. Slipping past his guard with a low sweep, the girl tells him not to lose focus, while the guy is left totally shocked by how brutal his opponent's skill level is. Showing zero mercy, the fighter plants her boot right in the round face of the pig, who is now seriously questioning the true identity of this absolute monster. Taking advantage of her opponent's lowered guard to lay a beatdown, the girl laughs as she attacks, while the MC calls her a sneaky rat for playing so dirty. The giant screen officially declares the young man's defeat. He sighs, realizing his opponent had the raw power to win fair and square, but chose to play hide-and-seek instead. Back resting in the lit-up machine, Chen-Du puts his hand on his chin, chewing on that valuable piece of advice about finding the true core of his art. Running simulations in his own head, he figures out that this fluid light technique has 4 unique styles, and the dragon move is the only card he currently has up his sleeve. Focusing on the theory of brutal thrusts, the kid concludes that it's a tactic meant for a stealthy rogue, and his current habit of charging in chest first is way too naive. Pumped up by the revelation that just cleared his mind, the prodigy hits the blue interface buttons, deciding to test out his new strategy in an official ranked match. Tossed into a new digital battlefield, the cute piggy avatar now has to face off against a giant masked opponent holding a terrifying spiked wrecking ball. Trembling like a leaf in front of the armed brute, our MC cries internally that the matchmaking system is rigged for tossing him into such a nightmare right off the bat. With no time to whine about the game's rules, the hero has to deal with a colossal overhead attack that splits the air with destructive blue energy. Safely behind a massive shield of impenetrable aura, the giant brags that the martial advantage is completely on his side in this whole mess. Ignoring the heavy trash talk from the beefed-up opponent, the young man counters by jumping nimbly to deliver a fierce strike known as the drums of war. With an incredibly mocking smile on his face, the big guy blocks the steel straight-on with his thick gauntlets, sarcastically noting that a sword should never be swung like that. Confident in his own hidden firepower, the piggy avatar flashes a menacing, glowing look and claps back, asking if his opponent is really that sure of himself. Instantly, a massive flash of light erupts from the ground, unleashing the forest breeze attack with enough magnitude to completely swallow the giant enemy's figure. The relentless impact shreds the opponent's virtual armor, sending a dark shockwave through the center of the explosion as the force knocks the target entirely out of the fight. Appearing out of nowhere behind the target with his sword raised for a finishing blow, the kid leaves the brute in total shock, wondering how he vanished from the front lines so fast. To nail the chatty enemy's coffin shut, Chen-Du unleashes the full fury of his blue dragon thrust from close range, leaving absolutely zero chance for defense. Standing next to the glowing sign confirming his crushing victory, the hero sheathes his blade, watching the smoke clear and brags about using that fatal thrust for the first time. Lost in a deep mental space of martial contemplation, a mysterious silhouette starts questioning our protagonist, asking why the sword is referred to as ingenious. Surrounded by several blue avatars demonstrating the perfect forms, the boy learns that the weapon doesn't rely on brute strength alone. It can flow between aggressive strikes and total stealth. The voice teaches that the ultimate secret of this luminous technique is mastering both the head-on, chest-out confrontation and the sneaky strike, targeting an unlucky enemy's blind spot. Grinning widely under his ridiculous mask as a flood of level-up notifications rolls in, the kid says he finally gets the message and demands one more match to push his limits. Tired of beating up opponents in the digital world, the protagonist finally pushes open the door of the big red machine, blurting out that he's starving after that intense marathon. As he stands up from the padded seat, the high-tech watch on his wrist flashes, beeping cheerfully to congratulate the kid for breaking into the top 10,000 ranking of the entire Blue Star. Blown away by the data flashing on his wrist, the young man goes wide-eyed, trying to process the sheer weight of being among the 10,000 best fighters on the whole planet. Ordering the AI to pull up the exact details right away, he discovers he snagged an unbelievable gold medal, securing absolute first place in his hometown. With a victorious grin plastered on his face, he celebrates that his spot in the prodigy class is locked in, and mastering that fatal thrust totally flipped his life upside down. Back outside, bathed in bright sunlight, the massive Liang No. 1 high school is gearing up for another regular day, with students rushing every which way. Walking casually down the street with his backpack on and wearing the standard uniform, the guy hears a deep voice angrily shouting his name over the crowd of students. The short, ticked-off man introduces himself as the defeated bully's uncle, and immediately accuses the kid of being a disrespectful brat for not bowing down to greet a teacher. Not giving much attention to the bitter adult's tantrum, our MC gives a dry hello and wonders internally what the deal is with that leadership armband the guy is wearing. Abusing his authority to the point of pure arrogance, the chubby uncle announces that, As the Dean of Academic Affairs, he's personally conducting a strict dress code inspection at the school gates. The other students around start laughing at the bald guy's pathetic power trip as he yells for everyone to shut their traps so he can command some respect from the kids. Behind the boy's back, some random students gossip that he's in deep trouble, accusing the new guy of only beating the playboy by using illegal substances and saying he deserves whatever punishment he gets. Completely unhinged, the corrupt dean swings a bamboo stick hard against the student's back, claiming his uniform violates the rules. A flimsy excuse just to assault the kid for no reason. Rubbing his stinging arm, the hero doesn't back down. He talks back right to the old man's face, stating that his clothes strictly follow the exact guidelines the school itself set. Furious at being talked back to in the middle of the street by a poor student, the power-tripping guy raises the piece of wood again, foaming with rage, and yells that he has no right to argue. With cold reflexes, the young man snatches the wood out of the air, stopping the attack dead in its tracks. The bald guy threatens to drag him straight to the principal and sign his immediate expulsion for extreme insubordination. Holding an unshakable stance like someone who isn't scared of ghosts, Chen-du keeps a firm grip on the coward's weapon until an elegant voice speaks up from the back, asking who exactly is looking for him. Then the imposing figures of the school principal step up, accompanied by none other than the city's powerful mayor, wearing a fancy suit and carrying a friendly smile. Like a scared little dog running to its owner, the uncle sprints over, whining to the principal, trying to drag the boy's name through the mud before the truth comes out. Having zero patience for the pathetic lackey's lies, the man in the suit simply raises his hand, ordering absolute silence so they can settle the issue like civilized people. Completely ignoring the crying dean, the educational leader turns his attention to the calm student in the blue jacket, politely confirming if this boy is indeed the famous Chen-du. Upon verifying his identity, the mayor celebrates that the young man locked down the highly coveted first place in the city, laughing out loud, and saying he came all the way down here just to see the golden prodigy in person. The bombshell news instantly drops on all the students, and even the corrupt dean chokes in absolute shock at the fact that a regular kid is dominating the nation's elite. The crowd's tune changes immediately as they cheer that the new kid is a legit genius, shutting down the lies that a raw talent like him would ever need to resort to drugs just to win fights. Taking control of the situation, the principal asks the boy to follow him, revealing that a teacher demanded his immediate transfer to the top class, leaving the uncle practically drooling on the asphalt. Away from the gossiping crowd at the school entrance, the story's focus shifts behind the secure, closed doors of the executive boardroom. Inside the fancy room, the second and third place rankers arrive, bowing to the men in suits, revealing that the area's entire teenage elite has been summoned all at once. Staring closely at each other, the trio of talented prodigies share looks of pure confusion, since none of them actually know who the others are in real life yet. Taking the floor at the head of the massive table, the mayor gets straight to the point, announcing that all 100 cities in the district will soon hold a monstrous high school tournament. With a look full of ambition, the politician explains that the rules state only the current top 3 on the ranking will be allowed to represent their cities in the highly anticipated national competition. The second-place kid figures that under the leadership of a level 15 warrior, they'll be competing in a 3-day tournament hosted at High City's #1 high school. Hearing this, the MC realizes that the top 10 finalists will earn bonus points for college placement and a massive cash prize starting at 100,000 yuan. With a dark smirk on his face, the school principal asks point-blank if the 3 young prodigies are willing to risk it all in this insane championship. The third-place kid raises his hand and asks the guy in the suit why they don't just use virtual combat, since the whole event is based on the martial arts leaderboard anyway. Turning his back to the students, the educational leader explains that real combat is way more effective, and they'll be fighting in special suits designed to equalize everyone's life force. The blue-haired boy trusts his own potential, calculating internally that with his daily training grind, securing a spot in the top 3 won't be an issue at all. Meanwhile, the kid with the bandana relaxes his posture, figuring that even if he doesn't crack the top 10, he can still use the tournament to gauge his rival's skill levels without stressing too much. Wasting no time, our hero raises his hand, confirming his spot in the competition. The other 2 boys quickly follow suit, announcing they are in for the fight too. Thrilled by the team's courage, the man in the suit praises the youth and lets them know they'll be notified about the departure time, dismissing them to head back to class right away. Walking down the hallway, the boy reflects that if he manages to secure a spot in the top 3, His parents won't have to work themselves to the bone every single day just to survive. The new kid notices that the desks in his new classroom don't have name tags, so he decides he'll just grab whatever seat happens to be open. Instantly, a massive hand slams violently onto the desk, and a threatening voice orders the MC to get out of there as fast as he can. The intimidating brute demands to know how the kid dares to sit in his spot, while the hero internally wonders if they accidentally let a real bear into the advanced class. Not intimidated in the slightest, the young man slowly stands up and looks the giant dead in the eye, sparking a heavy, tense rivalry right in the middle of all the other students. He cracks his knuckles with intent and mocks the bully's face, asking what era they're living in that someone is still trying to pull off schoolyard bullying. The kid with the bandana taps the shoulder of the big guy, named Panghu, and points out that the new guy just got here and doesn't fully grasp how the elite class rules work yet. Sweating cold from the sudden approach, the bully panics, realizing his rival managed to get that close in complete silence, proving his strength is at least 2 levels higher. Swallowing his pride by force, the giant backs off and tells the MC he got really lucky, claiming he's only letting the insult slide out of respect for the other prodigies in the room. Taking advantage of the pause, the bandana buddy explains to the hero that power and standing inside this advanced class are always decided by seat numbers. He points to the back of the room, revealing that every month there's an all-out brawl for rankings, and the bottom 10 students are forced to stand through all their classes for the entire month. Our MC goes slightly wide-eyed, shocked by the information, and admits to himself that he never expected such an insane level of competitive pressure right here in high school. Smiling, the kid continues his breakdown, saying that this month's rankings are already locked, but the new guy will have a shot to fight for his seat through a challenge system. Highly intrigued by the setup, the hero asks if there are any other perks besides just getting to sit down. He figures the answer will decide exactly how much effort he needs to put into the fight. Straight to the point, the student replies that the higher your seat is on the class leaderboard, the better the perks and resources you'll receive from the school. He leans back comfortably in the highly coveted seat number 1 and wraps up his explanation, warning that this ranking dictates the exact amount of resources everyone takes home each month. With eyes shining full of raw ambition, the protagonist clenches his fists, pumped up for a fight. He declares that it's absolutely worth throwing down to snatch the highest rank possible. Suddenly, the teacher in charge walks into the room wearing a red armband and orders all the students to head straight to the combat room next door to kick off the activities. The scene cuts to the bright, spacious interior of the massive training room, featuring an entire arsenal of weapons lined up against the wall, ready for the competitors to grab. Standing right in the center of the mat, the instructor announces that the new kid is allowed 3 direct challenges, and his final grade will depend entirely on how he performs in actual combat. Without hesitating, the kid grabs a wooden sword and instantly pulls all the attention to himself by yelling loud and clear that he wants to challenge the owner of seat number 10 right now. The spiky-haired teacher raises an eyebrow in total shock at the kid's sheer audacity, completely caught off guard that he's aiming so high right out of the gate. The background characters start whispering, blown away by the young man's courage. They question if this new guy with such a plain face has always been this savage. Analyzing the setup, the instructor figures that even with crazy skills, the kid's life force is way too low, which shouldn't be nearly enough to go toe-to-toe with the top 10. The hero grips the sword hilt tightly, unable to stop thinking about the fact that the prizes for 10th place are 50% higher than those for 11th place. Totally fixated on the cash and the perks, he narrows his eyes with determination and states loud and clear that the massive difference in rewards makes the risk totally worth it. The angry giant from earlier steps into the arena holding a massive hammer. He lets out an evil laugh, telling the rookie not to cry after getting the beatdown of his life. Staring down that mountain of muscle, the MC doesn't show a single drop of fear. He calmly asks if this brute really is the guy sitting in the 10th chair. Flashing a sadistic, ear-to-ear grin, the human bear confirms his rank and sarcastically warns the new kid that his luck has officially run out. The instructor steps between the 2 competitors with his arms spread to keep things orderly, and commands the big guy to strap on his protective gear before starting. With a slight smirk, the teacher thinks the rookie seemed like a pretty reserved kid, but deep down he's just another anxious youth eager to prove himself in front of the crowd. The adult steps out of the combat zone, figuring it'll be good for the boy to learn a hard lesson in humility, since taking a few hits is a natural part of martial arts training anyway. Standing safely away, the referee raises his arm high and shouts the command to begin, unleashing the murderous tension that was building up between the fighters in the ring. Like a runaway freight train, the brute charges forward with everything he's got, raising his dark mallet high and screaming that the rookie is going to be crawling on the floor begging for mercy. Not losing his cool for a second, the kid channels an intense blue aura through his body and shoots down the enemy's trash talk with the coldness of someone who knows exactly what he's doing in the arena. The thin blade clashes head-on with the massive hammer, producing a brutal shockwave that echoes off the room's walls and sends blue sparks flying in absolutely every direction. The monster swings the heavy sledgehammer down with ridiculous force, furiously roaring that the kid is way too slow to dodge this lethal incoming attack. In the crowd, the extras comment that the rookie's life force is a full level lower than the brute's, guaranteeing he's going to lose badly because of the massive disadvantage. The teacher is completely stunned when his visor shows the kid's power suddenly spiking. He wonders how it's even possible for someone to evolve that much in a single day. The massive fighter smashes his weapon into the mat, convinced he just squashed the rookie like a bug, and lets out a monstrous laugh, claiming his victory right in front of the whole class. But the hero had already vanished from the impact zone, appearing as a blur of speed right behind his rival, proving that his agility totally blew everyone's expectations out of the water. The giant goes wide-eyed, totally confused after hitting thin air. He turns his head in disbelief, unable to grasp how such a weak kid managed to slip away from his destructive strike. With a confident smirk on his face, our MC slides right under his enemy's guard, channeling a sharp blue energy into the tip of his wooden sword. The brutal impact of the thrust launches the bully's heavy body through the air like a ragdoll, leaving the entire class standing there with their jaws dropped at the ridiculous scene unfolding on the court. The human bear crashes back down with a violent thud, kissing the training room floor without the slightest chance of getting back up to continue the bloody fight. The kid sheathes his blade with absolute style while the students around him whisper in shock, recognizing that the flawless hit was the blue dragon thrust. The instructor rushes over in a panic, grabbing the boy's arm and asking if he actually achieved first-order perfection. The young man calmly replies that he broke past the limit yesterday. The adult freezes in his tracks at the revelation, trying to process the fact that this prodigy managed to master nearly 100% of the technique in just a single night of insane training. The hero scratches the back of his neck, completely missing why the older man is freaking out. He calls out to the instructor, snapping him out of the mental trance of someone who can't accept that a monster like this actually exists. The teacher gulps hard to regain his authoritative posture in front of the students. He raises the boy's hand high, declaring the new kid the undisputed winner of the duel. The crowd goes wild, cheering that the rookie managed to beat a much stronger opponent with just one clean hit, totally ignoring the massive gap in their levels. The kid with the bandana confirms his own suspicions as he watches the fight wrap up. He admits to himself that the new guy really is a late-blooming genius with a seriously bright future ahead of him. The teacher announces that the prize for the 10th seat is secured, but the MC declines to fight again, reasoning that the extra resources aren't worth the extra exhaustion right now. Soon after, the rank 3 kid walks over, asking to add our hero on a messaging app and kicks off a line of other students looking to do the exact same thing. Completely swarmed by his sudden crowd of fans, the boy can't say no and agrees to share his contact info, sweating nervously from all the over-the-top attention. Recovered from his beatdown, the giant brute hugs his rival's arm, calling him Big Bro and begging him to forget the insults, proving he literally has zero shame left. The bell rings, signaling the end of a wild training session. The teacher in charge of the prodigy class shoots a very deep look at the young man before dismissing everyone to head home. With a super serious tone, the instructor cuts the kid's celebration short and orders the calm boy to show up at the teacher's lounge immediately after the shift ends. The rookie knocks on the large wooden door and slowly walks into the office, hearing the elegant voice of the school principal, who is laser-focused on his desk full of paperwork. The young man enters the room alongside his instructor and listens as the older man directly asks the boss if there are any special recruitment slots left for the local universities. The man in the suit points to the chairs, telling him to calm down, and the teacher drops the bomb. He wants to put the MC on the closed recruitment list for the top-tier colleges. The principal rests his chin on his hand and warns him that those institutions demand absolute martial perfection, stating that the final 1% the boy is missing is easily the hardest part. Having zero patience for theories, the teacher points at the wall, demanding the kid be tested on the office machine, while the old man sighs, muttering about how he loves to make things complicated. The principal gives in to his employee's demand, pointing to the device in the corner of the room, and instructs the young man to strike the machine using the exact same attack from earlier. Absolute silence takes over the fancy office as the boy grips his weapon with a cold expression, mentally prepping to unleash his full power on the metal dummy. The prodigy's dark eyes glow with an unreal intensity, locked solely on the target for a split second before unleashing a brutal slash that tears through the wind straight at the testing equipment. The MC draws his sword with an intensely focused, deadly stare. He immediately unleashes the blue dragon thrust, obliterating the target with an absurd amount of energy. Sitting at his desk, the principal drops his cup, completely mind-blown that the boy actually achieved perfection. Scratching his head, the kid apologizes, saying he had no idea the machine was going to break. The teacher praises his student in absolute awe, calling him a genius with a terrifying instinct for combat. Astounded, the older man admits he's never seen a student with such razor-sharp battle senses. The principal orders them to give the boy's training top priority, guaranteeing him the resources of seat number 1. Raising his hand, our MC asks what exactly this special recruitment thing is all about. The instructor explains that to get into the top 8 schools, a student normally needs an incredibly high life force. But through special recruitment, having martial perfection is enough to make the evaluators come directly to him. Hearing that, the boy asks if he can still try for other spots even if he passes this special test. He reveals his desire to get into Huangshan University, since they all offer pretty much the same resources anyway. A flashback shows that 6 years ago, their city was ambushed by a terrifying horde of giant monsters. Back then, the city's defense forces and neighboring soldiers rushed in to try and save everyone. But because there weren't enough heroes, thousands of innocent people were lost. With a dead serious look, the boy thinks to himself that he just wants to make sure his family can live in peace. He figures that if the city is ever in danger, he needs to be able to rush back and protect the people he loves. Surprised, the teacher notes that usually, only people who have already lost everything think like that. The older man commends the fact that a young guy with a happy family possessing that kind of awareness is destined for great things. Glancing at his computer, the principal warns him that if he passes the test, he'll have to sign a binding contract. The instructor adds that if he performs well in the tournament, getting into those colleges will be a whole lot easier. With a smile, the kid thanks both adults, promising he'll think their offer over very carefully. Walking through the school courtyard, he calculates that he still has over a month until the recruitment process begins. Out on the street, the hero decides to move into the room provided by the school, so he can focus completely on getting stronger. Standing in front of the massive building, he decides to buy supplements to level up, knowing this is the Martial Hall. His mind recalls the Extreme Hall, which defends humanity against otherworldly beings. Right after, the image of the Tech Hall flashes by, responsible for advancing the overall strength of the entire human race. The Warrior Alliance also comes to mind as the ultimate force keeping law and order in check. He remembers that the founder of the Tech Hall is widely considered the second strongest human alive. At the front desk, our hero asks to purchase 3 boxes of Thunder Blood pills. The receptionist is taken aback by his request and repeats the name of the medicine just to make sure she heard him right. She explains that he needs to undergo a resistance test, first because of the intense lightning energy inside them. Walking down the hallway, the woman warns him that losing focus while using them could literally cost him his life. With his hand resting on the glass panel, the hero listens to the cue to start up the evaluation machine. Without a drop of fear, our MC states with absolute certainty that he's already good to go. They both wait in silence inside the high-tech room packed with advanced medical gear. Suddenly, the employee crosses her arms and makes a face of pure confusion at what she's seeing on the screen. The boy casually walks out of the testing room, suggesting the machine must be broken. Now inside his private training room, he carefully reads the instructions for taking the medication. Staring at the pills in his hand, he figures the pain from the test was no big deal and didn't scare him at all. With a funny look on his face, the kid imagines that taking all 3 at once is going to suck, but he can handle it. However, the boy's eyes shoot wide open the moment he feels the true impact of the substance hitting his system. Our hero's body is completely engulfed by violent blue lightning, while he screams out loud in agony. Despite the insane suffering, he cracks a wild smile, daring the energy to hit him with even more. Completely wiped out and sweating cold, the boy lets out a heavy sigh, trying to catch his breath. The system notifies him that his life force has gone up, and the boy celebrates getting one step closer to his goal. Holding the empty box, he sighs, realizing his money is only going to last 10 days at this rate. Sitting on the floor, the hero concludes he has to secure a top spot in the tournament to win the rest of the cash he needs. When he tries to stand up, his body gives out. Side effect of the lightning has left him completely paralyzed. Lying there with a grin, he decides that since his physical body is failing him, he'll just focus on training his spirit inside his mind. The kid mentions he took a massive beating from the giant monster in his head, but it definitely improved his spiritual power. In that mental space, he unleashes powerful attacks against the terrifying beast made of greenish fire. The next day, the student walks to class hyped up and can barely wait to put his new resources to use. Standing by the board, the redhead teacher announces they'll be studying a highly advanced technique today. The instructor explains that this course is exclusively for students with seriously high mental strength. Leaning against her desk, the woman teaches that the power of the mind makes martial skills hit twice as hard. The visual diagram shows that focusing all energy into a single point massively increases the explosion of the attack. Judging by how calm his classmates are, our hero figures everyone else has probably practiced this move already. The teacher warns them they'd be better off focusing on life force for the exam, since this specific technique has limits. With a snap of her fingers, the adult orders everyone to stand up and face the practical test. The woman announces she's going to play a fatigue melody on her flute to measure the student's endurance. She glances at the MC and lets him know he can sit this one out without it hurting his grade. The boy is totally confused as to why the teacher is suddenly cutting him so much slack. Realizing she thought he was too weak, the kid speaks up, saying he's going to participate in everything. The redhead flashes a smile, agreeing to let the stubborn kid try and promises to step in if he starts feeling sick. She begins blowing into the instrument, releasing purple musical notes that instantly assault everyone's minds. Our hero stands his ground, while a bald student in the front endures the pressure with intense focus. Wrapped in a magical musical energy, the instructor floats in the air, dictating the rhythm of the challenge. The boy in the blue jacket stays planted in his spot, showing absolutely no sign of mental weakness. Suddenly, a terrifying purple shadow forms right behind the kid, catching him totally off guard. The MC turns his head in shock, trying to figure out what kind of bizarre energy that is. The creature violently attacks the bald student, using a highly dangerous physical hypnosis technique. Crushed by the weight of the invisible attack, the boy grabs his head, trying to fight off the sudden wave of dizziness. The teacher's eyes go wide in absolute shock when she sees the new kid is still standing tall in the room. Looking completely relaxed, the boy proves his mental power is off the charts, leaving everyone dumbfounded. The teacher smiles with the flute in her hand, thinking his spiritual power is way more resilient than she ever imagined. She decides to crank up the energy level to test the boy's limit, while the other students can barely stay on their feet anymore. The monstrous pressure of the melody completely drains the class's physical strength, and they start collapsing to the floor. Seeing most of them drop, the woman figures that was expected and turns back to the MC to see how he's handling it. To her absolute surprise, the rookie is still standing, showing zero weakness against the spiritual attack. Stunned, she realizes the young man possesses both a talent for martial arts and a gift for spiritual power at the exact same time. At that moment, a sweaty, chubby student cheers, saying his rival's strength just proves he didn't lose unfairly the day before. But the joy is short-lived as the classmate collapses to the floor, totally exhausted, right in front of our hero. The instructor concludes that with this dual gift, the prodigy could easily compete for spots at the top 3 elite academies if he just had the resources. Excited to push the student to his absolute limit, the woman decides to elevate her melody straight to the highly dangerous level 8. Under the crushing new pressure, the MC finally feels the hit, groaning in pain as cold sweat starts pouring down his face. A dark giant manifests behind the boy, testing every single limit of his mind and body. The invisible impact strikes the hero with brutal violence, trying to force his body to give out and collapse. As he blocks the creature's punch, he thinks about how ridiculously heavy the weight of this mental attack really is. Totally out of breath, the kid rests his hands on his knees, trying to recover his energy after enduring such a grueling trial. The woman smiles in awe, concluding that this young man is the perfect warrior to face the dreaded civilization of the giant eye. As the boy leaves the room, gossip about his rare dual talent is already starting to spread through the school hallways. The teacher personally confirms her incredible discovery during a chat with the principal in the school corridors. The principal guarantees the boy has the potential to become a level 20 warrior, capable of both walking the earth and flying through the skies. Determined, the boss states that sending him to the 8 regular schools would be a total waste, and orders the woman to convince the kid to aim for Black Dragon University. The instructor immediately agrees to her boss's command, promising she'll carry out this new mission successfully. Standing at the office door, our hero walks in calmly, asking if his instructor wanted to speak with him. The adult asks if the student knows about Black Dragon University, and he replies that he only knows it's an elite school. The older man explains that the institution only recruits top-tier geniuses with the potential to dominate the skies in the future. Legend says these transcendent warriors possess insanely advanced skills and a status totally out of reach for rookies. Looking worried, the teacher reminds him that the cost of the supplements needed to reach that power level is a luxury way out of the boy's reach. The MC falls into a deep silence, staring at his instructor's face as he processes this harsh financial reality. With a dead serious look, the hero decides to try for the spot, making it clear that leaving his family behind would be a terrible idea right now. Relieved, the adult praises his decision, assuring him he already has a guaranteed spot in the 8 regular schools as the perfect backup plan. Walking out of the room, the prodigy concludes that his absolute focus needs to be the tournament in a month, and he'll deal with those choices later. The scene shows a quiet day in the big city, with clear skies and tall buildings reflecting the morning sun. Back home, the guy hears his sister calling him for breakfast and yells back that he's coming down to eat with the family. During the meal, the girl notices her brother's behavior and wonders why he suddenly seems so different and mysterious. The young girl concludes in her head that the guy looks way more jacked and extremely attractive now. At the table, the boy tells his family he's moving into the school for the next 30 days to focus completely on the tournament. His mom gets super worried about his health, while his sister asks if the school even has room left in the dorms. With a gentle smile, the kid reassures his mom, promising that the school is providing him with top-tier resources. He explains he scored a private, fully equipped martial arts room where he can train and rest in total comfort. Without any hesitation, the old man supports his son's drive and tells him his parents will always be there for whatever he needs on this journey. The experienced man proudly raises his fist and tells the hero to push forward, crushing any obstacle in his path. Pumped up by the support, our MC agrees with his dad, announces he's done eating, and heads out the door. At the door, his family cheerfully says goodbye, while his little sister demands he come back home with first place in the championship. In his new training room, the young man notices the insane price tag on the donated supplements and concludes that fighting really is a sport for the rich. Determined to make the most of the opportunity, he cracks the knuckles on his right hand and gets ready to kick off another heavy workout session. Standing in front of the massive training machine, the prodigy promises to focus all his energy solely on his own development. The heavy metal door slides open, revealing the deep darkness of the high-tech training environment. Gripping his wooden blade, he asks the AI to crank the gravity up to 5 times the normal level. Under the crushing aura, the fighter finds it interesting to feel the weight equivalent to 15 elephants pressing down on him non-stop. To start round 4, the combat machine fiercely charges in, wielding a straight sword in each of its robotic hands. Dodging the strike, the boy realizes that in a heavy environment, he can't clash head-on or he'll end up with every bone in his body broken. With a sharp evade, our hero slides across the floor, trying to find an opening in the metallic robot's relentless assault. Its eyes glowing red, the machine calculates that the evasion burned too much energy and suggests cutting out all useless movements. The automaton unleashes simultaneous strikes from every angle, cutting off any escape route a normal human fighter would use in battle. Seeing this, the prodigy flashes a confident smile, deciding that if he can't run, he's going to make the tin can taste its own gravitational force. With terrifying reflexes, the kid stomps down with brute force right in the middle of the enemy's blade, jamming up its most dangerous attack. Using the opponent's weapon as a launchpad, the MC leaps with extreme speed and brings his sword down, tearing through the air in an absolutely lethal arc. The strike smashes the robot straight into the metal floor with a heavy thud, leaving smoke leaking from its broken mechanical frame. Ignoring the damage, the equipment's eyes glow even redder, and it activates its final fully automatic annihilation protocol. The machine morphs its arms into bizarre whips, leaving the hero in disbelief at just how much the school's training system cheats. Completely swept up by the dirty attack, the guy goes flying through the air, screaming frantically at the AI to turn off the darn gravity. Lying on the floor panting, the kid decides his physical body has hit its absolute limit, so now he's going to use his mind to elevate his own warrior spirit. His mind dives into the darkness of the immortal space, revealing demonic eyes shining like bloody headlights in the void of his imagination. Surrounded by blue flames, our MC stares down the monster's massive jaws in the sky, demanding all the spiritual experience he can wring out of that unreal scenario. Back in the real world, he meditates peacefully on the training room floor, celebrating the fact that his mental strength increased by a very satisfying amount today. When he tries to stand up, the poor guy groans in pain, feeling that both of his legs have gone completely numb from sitting there meditating for so long. Wiping his mouth in frustration, he realizes that both his brain and his muscles are running on the lowest possible energy levels. Without much else to do, the exhausted warrior just collapses onto the floor, throws his arms wide, and declares it's officially time to sleep and recover. Exhaustion takes over quickly, and he passes out right there on the hard floor, snoring heavily and sinking into a deep, restorative sleep. Even while dreaming, he's putting in the work, deciding to invade the mysterious crystal space to practice his sword skills during his downtime. The boy's firm footsteps echo across the freezing ground, cracking the crystalline rocks of that harsh environment with the sheer weight of his powerful avatar. Our hero spots the dreaded green fire beasts, swearing that today is the day he finally figures out a foolproof way to slaughter all of them at once. With a killer look in his eyes, he raises his trusty weapon, channeling an insane amount of energy into the blade, ready to sever monstrous necks and limbs. Like a purple flash of lightning, the kid vanishes into thin air and hits the giant's massive arm with a brutal, clean strike, destroying everything in his path. He quickly figures out that the green spots on the beasts aren't armor, but healing sources that need to be the primary targets of his fastest attacks. Tearing the creature in half with ease, the boy concludes that fighting outside the gravity room has made him feel a whole lot lighter and deadlier now. Hanging upside down, he kicks off the wall, ready to strike the green fire monsters with his energy-coated weapon. The warrior spots a perfect opening and catches the two massive brutes off guard with a highly focused, lethal blow. Upon the brutal impact, the sword's energy shatters the creature into pieces, lighting up the dark room with blue sparks. Landing solidly on his 2 feet, the hero glares at the remaining red beasts with bloodlust in his eyes. Gripping his weapon, he smiles, amazed by how light his body feels, and promises himself he's going to grind in the gravity room until he's an absolute beast. After waking up, the prodigy steps into the bright city, ready to face the highly anticipated 100 Cities tournament right there. Standing at the entrance of the fancy lobby, he admits in awe that he's never set foot in such a luxurious hotel in his entire life. Suddenly, the MC furrows his brow in confusion when he hears a very deep female voice, blocking someone from coming in. The close-up from behind reveals tightly tied black hair, belonging to someone who looks ready to start a seriously ugly fight. With an absolute psycho stare, the guy wrapped in bandages demands the receptionist quit stalling and let him sign the check-in form. Gripping his sword tight, the hothead steps closer to the poor employee, threatening the girl just because of a minor delay. The boy watches the bizarre scene closely, wondering if the crazy guy actually has the nerve to hit her right in the middle of the lobby. Standing next to his city teammates, the hero is blown away by the brutal strength radiating from the rude bandaged guy. Just then, a girl with purple hair and black pants slowly walks through the lobby, asking someone to handle the raging idiot. The MC's bald teammate practically drools over the girl, stating that she's the famous princess of the sea and looks even better than in her photos. Confused by the exotic title, our hero asks his buddy who exactly this princess of the sea standing in front of them is supposed to be. The short kid explains that she's rich, powerful, talented, and totally spoiled, making her the undisputed queen of this entire fancy city. The prodigy's eyes go wide in shock as he realizes he's seen that arrogant little face before, just in a totally different context. His mind races, remembering that the pretty girl is actually the virtual brat who used to steal his nukes online. Snapping back to the lobby, He processes in disbelief that he just bumped into his digital rival right in the middle of the real world out of nowhere. Keys in hand, the kid finally steps into his luxury hotel room after all that chaos down on the first floor. The scene shows 3 pots of food cooling off on the stove in the fancy room while he contemplates the life of a fighter. Gathered around the low table, the rookie squad sits down to hear the updates the instructor brought back from the meeting room. Sitting in the armchair, our hero asks the older man how the new tournament rules are going to work. The old man crosses his arms and seriously explains that over the next 3 days, they'll have to survive 3 extremely brutal rounds. He draws on the floor, saying that in the first round, the trio needs to collect 2 specific named medals in the forest arena. The magic symbol on the ground marks the finish line of the race, which will qualify the entire team as long as one person crosses it. The rookie scratches the back of his neck, trying to wrap his head around it, and asks how many of these darn medals the evaluators scattered across the whole arena. With a dark look, the instructor reveals that only 50 teams will advance, meaning more than half of them are going to get cut right there. The bald kid cries, hugging his shorter teammate, thanking the heavens they don't have to fight the MC's monster level right off the bat. The old man in black gloves breaks down that the final round will be a 10-fighter brawl, with a massive pile of cash on the line for the finalists. Dead serious, the kid predicts that the 3 days of battle are going to be rough, but the strongest fighter's power will definitely shine through by the end. Raising a finger, the teacher decides it's best to drop the final rule to make absolutely sure everyone understands the stakes. With sharp eyes, he warns them that it is strictly forbidden to take anyone's life, whether online or in the real world, since the true enemy lives in the other worlds. The adult reassures the trio, saying they'll all wear leveled suits to prevent unfair matchups and the leaders will be watching their backs from a distance. Joking around, the teacher tells them not to fail just for the prize money, warning them he wants maximum pride from this bunch of kids today. The whole team shouts in unison, confirming they completely understand the suicide mission and smile together with chests full of confidence. The sun beats down on the city's asphalt streets, signaling that the big day of throwing hands has officially arrived for the students. Standing in front of the massive crowd of students, the leaders hold their swords and announce they are about to enter the infamous forest of wild monsters. The main guy in the green suit crosses his arms, calling for the kids' attention before unlocking the cursed gates of the brutal event. Pointing at the gate behind him, the big shot reveals that the forest is actually a spiritual realm born from the collision of 9 ancient planets. Our hero's eyes widen instantly, as he's always heard stories about these dimensional rifts crawling with absolutely merciless monsters. But the boss calms the teens down, letting them know the space is completely secure and has been personally vetted by the king of the Human Martial Alliance. Putting on a tough face, the man in the suit kills the relaxed vibe again, warning them that the risk of passing away inside is still very real and present. The crazy bandaged guy from earlier turns his back to the main speaker, cursing under his breath because he can't go in and fight alone like he planned. Staring at the hothead's back, the MC figures the guy hates everyone else and would rather rip hearts out without any extra help. On the high-tech wall, the scanner reads the eyes of a chubby instructor who is helping out with the security and logistics for the city's tournament. A giant blue rift tears the sky open right above the students' heads, marking the official start of the invasion into the terrifying forest of angry monsters. Standing in the endless grassy field, the students stare at the destroyed ruins on the horizon while waiting for all the portals to fully activate. Walking across the leaves, the main boss warns them that the magic portal retains the entry force, just in case the dimensional hole closes without any prior warning. Looking over the crowd carefully, the boss instructs everyone to step into the circle, which will randomly teleport each group across the massive green landscape. A circular floor of pure light starts glowing intensely under everyone's feet, signaling the brutal activation of the magical arrays etched into the rocks. The magic erupts from the ground up, sucking in every single fighter like a soul vacuum right in the middle of a sunny day. Our hero slowly spreads his fingers, covering his face to shield himself from the wind and magical dust kicked up by the weird dimensional portal. Popping up out of nowhere in the middle of nowhere, the kid admires the massive blue trees, confirming he really did end up in a sick fantasy realm. He pulls up the screen projected from his right hand with a grin, asking his 2 teammates to pick their next destination on this chaotic trek through the woods. Celebrating his own luck, he spots a red dot sitting almost right on top of his blue marker, figuring his team just got off to a fantastic start. His pimply teammate agrees with the call, trusting his judgment, while the chubby kid in the beanie just silently nods along with the whole team. Through the thick, bluish forest fog, a gray stone totem turns out to be the very first prize hidden by those darn tournament evaluators. The boy's steady finger presses the high-tech square, activating the reward and feeling an immediate wave of relief wash over his sweaty, racing heart. With a confident smirk, the prodigy brags, saying he thought the first medal was a fake, but his team's luck is genuinely through the roof right now. Suddenly, the fighter's eyes narrow in anger as he hears the sound of dry leaves snapping right near his cheerful group in the woods. Drawing his blade on pure reflex, he warns his panicking teammates to fall back and not try to act like tough guys out of nowhere. Before the dust even settles, an enemy trio leaps out and launches 3 straight thrusts, forcing the hero to dodge their incredibly cheap and sneaky ambush. Glaring at the rival gang, the young man mocks them, saying he never imagined seeing vultures moving faster than him to chase down a blue medal. A foot stomps down with brutal force into the muddy ground, prepping for a violent dash right into a deadly brawl in the middle of the dimensional forest. The captain of the Kun City team charges in furiously, gripping his spear tight, and orders the rookies to hand over the medal if they want to live a little longer. Watching the holographic screen from afar, the MC figures out that the arrogant enemy team is planning to ambush any surviving prey left in the area. Our smart kid smiles, realizing the best strategy isn't to fight right now, but to block the exit route and collect a toll further down the line. Meanwhile, the squad of 3 chubby and skinny kids retreats through the dark woods, desperate to find the magical safe zone before they get beat down by everyone again. But their run comes to a dead stop when the trio's leader signals danger, freezing right at the edge of a cliff, with his 2 panting friends practically bumping into his back. Down at the bottom of the rocky mountain, they spot 2 ragged kids staring down what looks like the absolute worst nightmare possible in this dimensional rift. The pimply kid cries in terror, hugging his buddy as he realizes the red monster at the bottom is none other than one of those darn giant wolves. Completely blindsided, the MC processes the info, wondering if his crystal mind room is somehow connected to this shadowy dimensional forest. Before the beast can jump the rivals down below, the leader points his blade downward and orders his team to gear up for the incoming chaos. Focused on the fight, our MC turns his head, promising his terrified friends that he's going to handle this whole mess completely on his own. The enemy attacks furiously, throwing 3 deadly stakes through the air and warning the rookie that he has no idea how deep this hell really goes. With an incredibly fast motion, the wooden blade slices through the air, blocking the impact of the flying spears with absurd solid force. The rival captain is left in shock when he sees the kid take the hit head-on, without taking a single step backward in the forest. Veins pop on the villain's hand as he wonders how it's even possible for the kid to be that strong when everyone is capped at level 5 right now. Sliding across the ground, our hero attacks, tearing through the air and proving to the enemy team that his martial arts skills are absolutely top tier. In a dramatic close-up, the boy's eyes glow yellow, unleashing a terrifying aura capable of striking fear into anyone standing there. The prodigy channels his mental power into the training weapon, activating the full energy of the 9th spiritual level to crush his cocky rival. The strike unleashes a blue shockwave, ripping through the wind and sending the captain flying backward like a ragdoll. Ignoring all defenses, the hero spins his blade, bringing down the 2nd form of the blue dragon and cracking a massive crater into the forest floor. With his body completely scraped up and bleeding, the captain groans in pain after violently kissing the trunk of a tree near the cliff. The rookie lands smoothly, planting both feet in the grass, capping off his attack with a majestic pose fit for a true master. Lying on the ground, the poor guy mutters in terror, asking the heavens why the kid's blade is 1,000 times heavier than his own spear. Completely broken, he face-splints into the mud, accepting the harsh reality that he picked the absolute wrong target to ambush. On the other side, the light shines on the hero's shadowy figure standing tall with his sword, proving that he's the one who truly runs things around here. After taking down the Kun City team, the hero turns his head coldly, declaring it's high time to finish off the enemy captain once and for all. The evaluator drops his pen onto the clipboard and signals the official end of the match right in front of everyone present. The teacher smiles confidently and praises the kid's attack, admitting the young man's raw power caught him completely by surprise. On the floor, the enemy captain begs the teacher, pleading for a chance to keep fighting since his entire tournament run was on the line. But the leader shuts the hothead down, pointing at his shredded clothes and warning him that the hero's strike actually hit a level 7 life force. Looking bored, the adult shoots back that if the kid landed another hit like that, the opponent's body would be sent packing for good. The teacher adjusts his glasses, thinking to himself that the rookie's talent is so ridiculous that even the Martial Alliance won't be able to ignore him anymore. Hyped about the success, the old man turns his back, promising he wants to see the whole trio tear it up and dominate the grand finals. From a distance, the defeated captain shouts his name, swearing that one day they'll cross paths again and the outcome will be totally different. Flashing an ironic smile, the kid tells his rival that in 2 days, first place is going to be his, without a single doubt or shred of modesty. The panel cuts to the massive screen in the main hall, broadcasting the end of the fight between the two teams for the suited-up audience to watch. Up in the VIP box, the big shot from the neighboring city laughs nervously as he throws in the towel, telling the mayor he's booking a flight home today. The mayor pokes fun at the situation, bragging that his school just debuted 4 first-order prodigies and completely humiliated the competition. In the stands, a teacher questions why the Liang team is heading straight for the final map point when they only have 1 medal in their pockets. The trees shake on their own, proving the forest environment is still highly dangerous, hiding monsters and fresh challenges around every corner today. Deep in the woods, his 2 teammates stare at the MC in disbelief after hearing he's aiming for the meetup point this early in the game. Being brutally honest, the guy with the calm eyes guarantees that finding 2 more medals is absolutely no challenge for their team's strength. With a killer glare, he crushes the kid's hopes, admitting that his one and only goal in this giant arena is to become the absolute grand champion. The captain reminds him that for the rich kids in the tournament, winning is just status, but for his poor family, the prize money is pure hard survival. The hero holds up 3 fingers on his right hand, asking them to clearly explain who the massive targets are that will cross his path in the finals. He hears that the host city sent 2 insane teams and a bloodthirsty fighter named Musashi, who can take down anyone in hand-to-hand combat. The kid replies to his scared friend, promising that eliminating a monster like Musashi right now will make their team's life way easier by the end of the day. The boy's mind pictures the tournament like a chessboard, stating that in the upcoming rounds, the brackets are going to back everyone into a corner. He figures that since High City is hosting the party, they'll use the brackets to protect themselves, while rookies like him will be used as sitting ducks. The kid's cold gaze locks onto the distance, as he calculates that trying to take on 2 powerhouses at the same time is going to be tactical suicide. The warrior wonders if his blade can slice through 3 monsters of that caliber, in the span of just a brutal 2-day tournament. Using the blue dragon technique, he slaughters a mud monster with a sadistic smile, confirming he already knows all their weaknesses by heart. Panting after sweeping through several monsters, he curses his own body for still not being able to keep up with the absurd output of his pure spiritual power. The kid crushes another wolf's face against the wall with his bare hand, thinking to himself that his teammates can't even hold off the weakest beasts. A massive pack surrounds the hero, growling with glowing red eyes, getting ready to tear the human's body into dozens of bloody pieces. Focused on his sword, the hero realizes he can output level 7 energy and wipe out the weak beasts, but the strong ones in the back are holding their ground well. The fighter grits his teeth in anger, noting that his speed is way too sluggish to save his entire team at once from this sea of red wolves. A crazed wolf lunges with its jaws wide open, drooling and ready to snap the neck of his terrified teammate, who tries to hold the monster off with a metal pipe in the clearing. The beast swings its sharp claws, slicing cleanly and deeply into the bald kid's chest, making blood spray onto the dirty ground of the dark spiritual realm. Under immense pressure, our MC leaps into action surrounded by blue lightning, bringing his strike down with pure rage onto the hellhound's frame and slicing the creature in half midair. In the darkness of his spiritual space, the prodigy's mind shines like ice, pushing past the barriers of speed to overcome his own lagging physical body today. Gripping the blade with ridiculous force, his soul's eyes widen as he furiously commands the sword to break the darn sound barrier right then and there. A streak of light tears through the darkness as the boy, slicing monsters across time and space, celebrates the perfect instinct of his very first accelerated technique in practice. Dripping with sweat, a smile spreads across his face as he admits that as long as he keeps that power active, his city's team might actually have a real solid chance at winning this thing. His teammate runs over in a panic, screaming at the top of his lungs to the team leader that their short, bald buddy took a nasty slash to the arm and is in terrible shape among the beasts. At the edge of the surrounded clearing, the wounded kid's shadow collapses to the ground. He cries tears of blood, gripping his injured arm, unable to take a single step further in this desperate escape. Trembling and on the verge of passing out, the short kid throws in the towel and apologizes a million times to his friends for being the dead weight that ruined the team's endurance test. Our MC's eyes go wide when he hears the deep roars of the beasts, and he screams desperately for the two fools to run away from that corridor of doom immediately. The heavyset kid stammers, trying to justify leaving him behind, while being grabbed by the collar by a terrified friend, trying to drag him out of the furious creature's deadly crosshairs. The beast's auras explode in a burst of red and black energy, covering the clearing as if the devil himself had decided to show up right in front of the terrified team. The blue lightning whip cracks, saving the bald kid from the killer claw, but sends the protagonist spinning through the sky after getting caught off guard by the recoil. Like an evil meteor, the crazed creature crashes right into the middle of the students, kicking up dust everywhere and cutting off all escape routes. With a knife between his teeth, the leader steps up and orders the cowards to run for the hills and leave the carnage to him, since the instructors are keeping an eye on things anyway. He shouts the order to the team while the big guy drags the wounded kid by the arms, sweating as they flee that fierce gauntlet toward the safe exit of the insane trial. The boy stares down the insane pack and mentally calculates that rage mode doubles their strength but strips away all intelligence and common sense, making them focus only on the nearest target. Taking a deep breath with a cruel smile, he wipes his own blade, admitting that the crystal wolves taught him way more about lethal tactics than the organic monsters in the real world. The bipedal creature stands up roaring furiously in the middle of the forest, flexing its giant muscles to slice that weak little kid into 1,000 pieces right now with sheer, blind, brute force. The blue streak glides through, slicing the beast's chest like a hot knife through butter before the massive creature can even think about striking, destroying the beast in less than a single second. Like a machine punching the clock, the warrior defends his prey and launches his blade into the gap, tearing into the side of the second beast, making blood drip through the dust kicked up by the battle. Standing face to face with the boss of the Hellhounds, the rookie's eyes go wide in shock and disbelief, because the giant beast is flexing the forbidden power of a level 7 combatant, which should be totally impossible here. The camera cuts to the VIP room, projecting the insane scene of the frantic fight onto a massive screen while everyone gulps hard, watching the epic showdown from the front row. A chubby evaluator analyzes the brawl, huffing that it's a tragedy to see such a badass kid walk right into an ambush by the most violent wolves in the entire tournament. The serious, bearded man counters that opinion, crossing his legs and stating that the real shocker isn't the difficulty, but the brat's sheer grit for still standing and facing it all without backing down. The fancy director at the end questions the old bearded guy, trying to figure out where the kid's supposed miracle is hiding in the middle of a brawl that looks like a repeat of past fights. Reading the technical files, the head evaluator flashes a mysterious smile and reveals that the genius breaking the stats on the screen has never lived in or set foot in their fancy city before this epic tournament kicked off. Dead serious, the gray-haired evaluator clarifies that he isn't talking about the kid's skill level, but rather his fighting style. Intrigued by the statement, the bearded man immediately asks what his colleague means by that. The older man then explains that the boy's technique isn't perfect, but he predicts attacks without even looking at his enemy. Watching the prodigy slice through the wolves, the evaluator notes that he fights like someone who crawled his way out of a pile of fallen foes on a real battlefield. Paying close attention to the explanation, the bearded man keeps listening to the analysis in silence from the VIP area. Looking at the big screen, the gray-haired man says regular people don't know about spiritual realms, so he assumed the boy had access to classified data. However, he reveals that the boy is just a kid from a completely ordinary family, with no grand legacy behind him at all. Swinging his blade down with no mercy, the kid summons the breeze technique, slicing through the beasts with absurd precision in the middle of the forest. With his eyes glowing in the dark, the warrior keeps his absolute focus locked on the next target. He takes a massive leap, firing off blue energy, as it's revealed that the pack's strength surpasses even the crystal giants. Fast as lightning, the sword pierces the target right in its vital spot. Back on the forest floor, the boy regains his stance among the trees. Covered in sweat, he thinks to himself that he needs to find the key to finally break past his limits once and for all. Locking onto a specific beast in the pack, he quickly decides that monster right there is going to be his main target. Timing his strike, he plans to catch the enemy back up totally off guard and eliminate the threat before the beast even has a chance to react. In the blink of an eye, a flash of red energy tears through the battlefield scenery. Standing alone in the aftermath, the boy realizes this constant exchange of blows has drained a huge chunk of his physical energy. Holding his sword firmly near his face, he comes to the conclusion that he needs to end this fight as fast as possible. Suddenly, a lightning-fast enemy attack flies straight at the MC out of nowhere. Taking a direct hit to the ribs, the warrior bleeds and curses the fact that his speed is already starting to lag behind. Giving him no room to breathe, the massive beast charges at him in a brutal pursuit. Raising his blade with everything he's got, the kid barely manages to block the monster's heavy claw attack at the very last millisecond. Staring the beast down at point-blank range, the prodigy keeps his mind sharp amidst the ridiculous pressure. Relentless, the creature keeps attacking with violent strikes, trying to slice its target to shreds no matter what. Dodging backward, the MC regrets already finding their weak spot, but still being a step too slow to actually land the hit. Pushed back by an explosion of power, he takes a violent jolt while the colossal wolf roars right in his face. With a tense face, he thinks his sword needs to get faster and hit heavier, demanding that he push past that limit. For a brief moment, his mind pulls up a memory of a smiling couple in the background as a silent source of motivation. Then he recalls his intense training sessions, where he sliced through test dummies until he couldn't lift his arms anymore. To top off the memory, the face of his blonde teammate pops into his head, smiling and giving him that final push. Wrapped in pure blue energy, he swears to himself that this isn't just a fight, it's the major turning point of his entire life. Baring its blood-stained teeth, the beast keeps growling relentlessly. With his aura exploding in a spiritual roar, the MC decides there is absolutely no way he's going down here. Dropping like a pillar of cutting light, he crushes the monster with a titanic strike coming straight from the sky. Noticing his own movement, he realizes that attack felt a little different than usual. Surprised by his own strength, the warrior can barely believe the damage he just caused. For the very first time, the giant hound freezes with a look of pure terror on its face when confronted with that power. Down on one knee, he reflects that if he hadn't put his trust in others, he wouldn't be in this mess, and the lesson came at a very steep price. Far away, a brown-haired extra sighs, figuring the outcome is already decided and it's time to wrap this whole thing up. But the guy immediately stammers in shock when he sees the prodigy glowing in an intense blue down below, shattering all expectations. Whipping up a monstrous hurricane of wind, the kid concludes that this attack really does carry a brand new, lethal feel to it. Landing with pure style, our MC plants the tip of his sword into the ground as the dust settles around him. Exhaling, he realizes the blade's path flowed perfectly with the winds, which explains the massive power boost. Steady and calm, he grips the fancy hilt of his trusty weapon. Walking calmly, he gets a system notification that his technique just leveled up to an incredible 99% of the first order. The glowing panel displays the boy's triumphant silhouette for everyone to see. Sweating from nerves, the evaluator shouts in shock that the kid evolved his skill right at this exact moment, tying him with the top students. Analyzing the brawl, the gray-haired man points out that a wolf den of that size should have exhausted even a top-tier student. Clasping his hands, the bearded man comments that the kid's technique looks way too strong and doesn't match his recorded speed stats. The big shots conclude that his spiritual strength borders on level 10, giving the boy the potential to become a warrior of the skies. Giving a little speech, the old man states that having a martial soul is insane, but reminds everyone the boy still has plenty of hurdles ahead. Letting out a laugh, the evaluator calls his colleague overly strict, guaranteeing that from his point of view, the kid is already exceptional. In the audience, the crowd complains in outrage when they see the dirty team that the MC saved show up at the scene, acting totally innocent. Walking through the forest, the blue-haired girl nervously asks the leader if they can really just steal the emblems that easily. Full of himself, the preppy kid replies that the hero is going to get eliminated anyway, because the tournament leader will have to step in and save the poor guys. With an evil smirk, the traitor celebrates that the emblems aren't traceable, and the coast is totally clear at this moment. Playing with a mirror, the cocky guy declares that very soon, they'll be holding every single reward from the trial. Holding one of the pieces, the arrogant kid celebrates arriving at the location, thinking his dirty scheme worked perfectly. But the sight of a bunch of shredded wolves on the ground cuts off the girl who was just praising his strategic vision. Faced with that brutal carnage, the fake strategist's eye twitches in pure panic as he realizes he made a massive mistake. While his lackey excitedly points at the emblems, the group leader freezes, feeling that something about this scene is very, very wrong. Tossed on the ground, a lifeless, colossal beast carries one of the highly sought-after emblems right in its dark fur. The numbered piece glows faintly, resting on the fallen monster's carcass, drawing everyone's attention immediately. Staring at the mountain of meat, the coward assumes our hero's teacher must be unbelievable to have slaughtered that many beasts. Pale with fear, the little villain admits the place reeks of an intense battle, but feels like he missed one crucial detail. Suddenly, a jolt of pure terror hits the traitor's mind, making his spine freeze on the spot. Screaming in panic, he tells his group to run, realizing the rival team was never actually eliminated and this is clearly a trap. In disbelief, the lackey stammers that it's impossible for the prodigy to have wiped out all those wolves by himself, in such a brutal way. Not even giving the guy time to finish his sentence, a sharp blue streak flies straight at him from the shadows. Sword in hand, the MC steps up looking imposing, loudly confessing that he was the one who cleared the map. Stepping out of the bushes looking like an absolute boss, the boy walks forward accompanied by his teammates who survived the massacre. Flashing a confident smile, the hero listens as his rival asks how he managed to figure out the whole fake elimination act. Terrified, the strategist explains that team leaders are strictly banned from carrying weapons during the test to avoid serious injuries. Looking at the clean cuts on the dead wolf's face, the coward realizes no unarmed leader could ever make slices that precise. Spinning his nunchakus, the blondie reveals that their teacher only trains the squad using different weapons during private martial arts classes, completely closing the trap. Deep in thought, the boy admits he still has no idea what the rival's main weapon actually is and knows he needs to be way more careful from now on. Emblem in hand, our hero flips the original question, demanding to know exactly where this Musashi guy is hiding. With that, he tosses the piece to the scared kid, telling him he couldn't care less about these prizes and only really wants to throw down with his rival. Catching the object, the strategist finally realizes the prodigy's true goal in this entire tournament is simply to challenge the big guy. Checking his holographic map, the traitor explains they bumped into the big guy heading the opposite way, since he ran into the wolves on his path. Hearing this, the boy analyzes the route and concludes that the straight-line navigation provided by the organizers is full of hidden traps. The lackey points at the projection, noting that the target definitely isn't at the starting point anymore, but is probably roaming around that star marker over there. Without wasting a single second, the hero snaps his head around, already locked onto the next step of his team's escape plan. Turning his back, the prodigy tells the losers to drop the emblems on the ground and get the heck out of the tournament once and for all. Shocked by his coldness, the purple-haired traitor's eyes widen as he asks if the hero is really screwing them over like that. The boy shoots that killer glare over his shoulder, the kind that sends shivers down anyone's spine without him having to say a single word. Sword in hand, the hero mocks them, saying he's just saying thanks for them showing him the way earlier, while his rival foams at the mouth with rage. Right after, a fast blur dashes forward, cutting through the air in a sudden, direct move to settle the unfinished business. Without an ounce of mercy, the big guy from the team smacks the traitor right in the face, calling the guy a spoiled brat. Full of authority, the giant lectures the kid on the ground, complaining that breaking your own word shows a massive lack of martial honor. Lying in the bushes, the strategist cries and mutters about honor, while the blondie points a finger right in his face with zero patience. Standing with his leader, the blondie makes fun of the guy's audacity to demand honor and states they have nothing to fear from that loser squad. Flashing a clever smile, our MC comments that the rival's dirty move is just plain and simple tactical deception. In the system, the icons for advanced skills and martial arts light up on the screen, detailing the techniques used in the trial. Walking through the dense forest, one of his partners mentions that those guys just so happen to be carrying the valuable martial emblem. Excited, the teammate puts the hero's whole trap together, realizing that with this move, they finally collected the two pieces they needed. Eyes glued to the glowing screen, the MC hears the big guy ask if he still has the guts to face their rival while being this exhausted. The boy keeps his eyes locked on the route without breaking focus for a second, fully dialed into the team's next destination. Being honest, he admits he isn't going to fight since he's out of spiritual energy, and would get beat up by an even weaker opponent right now. With a sly look, he reveals he only asked for the location so he could steer clear of the rival, and just got lucky bumping into the exact emblems they needed. After explaining, the smart kid takes the lead, marching the team straight out of that lethal danger zone. With a tap on the digital map, the prodigy declares they are heading straight for the moon marker to drop off the prizes and wrap up the first phase. Sliding his finger across the hologram, he traces a very specific route, demanding his teammates follow that exact safe path. Confused by the drawing, the blondie asks why they're taking such a huge detour, instead of just heading straight for the finish line. Calmly, the hero explains he was suspicious of the easy rules, and figured out the organizers were lying about the location's safety from the very beginning. Still curious, the leader points out that the traitor's comment about running into beasts along the way raised a huge red flag about it being a trap. Shocked by the theory, the spiky-haired teammate's eyes go wide as he finally starts putting the pieces of this deadly puzzle together. Then the big guy cracks the code, stating that the real danger of the tournament isn't at the final destination, but on the darn journey itself. The MC concludes that the entire forest is a trap, and taking the safest path away from wolves just increases the odds of bumping into other teams. Focused on their tactics, he deduces the trial was designed to weed out the weak, since only the truly strong will actually make it to the moon alive. With a serious face, the hero warns them they can't let their guard down for a single millisecond until they actually cross the finish line. His two partners instantly agree with the strategy, tense and ready for whatever crazy thing jumps out of the dark woods. Right then, the team picks up the pace, sprinting down the dark forest trail in a rush to finally get this darn test over with. Pushing through the thick leaves with his hands, the MC moves cautiously, clearing a path through the dense vegetation. With steady steps, he finally walks into a well-lit clearing, feeling like something is waiting for them right up ahead. The boy's eye twitches in terror as he curses in his head, realizing the terrible surprise fate just handed him. Standing right in front of them is the dreaded rival squad, led by a blonde guy carrying a bizarre coffin on his back right in the middle of the trail. Sweating cold, our hero curses their awful luck for bumping into the absolute strongest team when they were already right at the finish line. With a calm smile on his face, the coffin guy notices the group and questions the power level of the MC standing in front of him. Trembling, the team's blondie notices the rival's killer sword intent and realizes this guy has to be the famous first stage master. Without any hesitation, the enemy drops the giant coffin onto the ground, creating a heavy thud that echoes all through the dark woods around them. Resting his hands on the box, the imposing blonde guy shows off several blades strapped to the wood, ready to kick off an absolute bloodbath. Faced with the danger, the kid immediately draws his own sword, his eyes sharp, waiting for the terrifying giant to make the first move. But the sword master keeps his eyes closed as he hears a female voice ordering him to stop everything right this second. A purple-haired girl steps up, saying the hero is covered in wolf blood and that fighting him now would be pure cowardice on their part. Oozing arrogance, the girl admits she's surprised by the hero's level, but promises she's going to wipe the floor with him and the big guy in the upcoming rounds. Flexing a powerful blue aura, she announces her team has won for 9 years straight, and their 10th victory is going to be flawless. As the enemies turn their backs, the team's blondie breathes a sigh of relief, praising the snobby opponent for her noble and honorable attitude. With a look of pure boredom, the MC wonders if his friend is crazy for thinking that little scene had even an ounce of chivalry in it. In the prodigy's mind, he pictures the girl as a nuke dealer pretending to be a saint, finding her whole fake villain persona hilarious. From a distance, he figures the villainess only backed off for the cameras, since her actual style is to crush her enemies without giving them any real room to breathe. Hiding in the bushes, the purple-haired girl sweats nervously while staring at the camera drone, muttering that she needs to keep up appearances for the viewers. Far away from that crazy forest, the scene cuts to the front of a luxury hotel glowing quietly in the calm night of the big city. Sprawled out on the soft bed, the kid lets out an exhausted breath, noting that he's finally finished his daily refinement of heavy spiritual energy. Staring at his glowing tablet, he reads that 150 students passed, calculating he'll need to take down 4 enemies tomorrow to advance. Sinking into his pillow, the hero sighs that his energy is stuck at level 9, and he plans to clear the 7th wave of monsters to hit that much-needed evolution. Wrapped in thoughts of pure power, he closes his eyes with the absolute certainty that if he reaches level 10, no one will be able to take the top spot from him.